Gundam.tk presents High Grade Genoace. Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs, 2Bs from YouTube and Gundam.tk, and the cannon fodder of Gundam Age. We've got the high grade 1/144th Genoace. Is all done. You've seen the unbox, the parts, and the mobile suit. Now it's time to weigh the pros and cons so that you can make a call as to whether this is something you actually want to pick up. As these two face off, just to run through some of the bad parts about this kit. The first thing is that when you're putting it together, you're going to have to be a little bit careful with the knees because you're going to have to pay attention in the manual and both when you put it in. You can pop the poly caps off and have to take the knees off, or the legs apart and put them back together. Always use a modeler's knife, don't try to rip them apart or you'll break the pegs. But anyway, it's just something that when I was putting the knees together, I was intrigued by the way they were put together. But it's not something that I think somebody, a 10-year-old kid building their first Gundam would be able to do with no problem, so they'd probably be better off with an AG. Now in terms of looks, what do you think of those colors? This is completely subjective. I think the pink and the white offset them very well, but whenever I look at these and they primarily just have the two colors in them, and well, at least we've got three in the Genoace, I can only think how much these were designed for the advanced grades. And I wonder if the HGs don't suffer for that. Yes, it's got some extra gray all over there, which is good to see, but you're not going to see it too often, and the Genoace was certainly disappointing in that. But that's not what we're reviewing here. In terms of the manual itself, that was a little bit dull because it doesn't add anything new. When I was building the Gafran and I was building the Age 1 normal, I was reading through the manual, learning more about the cartoon and the anime, and learning more about the suits itself. With the Genoace, I didn't really learn anything except for the fact that that red hair guy was supposed to be the pilot, and now he loves the Genoace. So I really hope he does get a custom color at some point. My big knock against this, though, is that the beam stick. This is probably the lamest weapon in all of Gundam. What does it do? It's 2 centimeters of a unique color, which is another big beef. But if you're not going to be using the beam saber, I don't see why you'd ever be using that, which is why Bandai didn't have to go to the trouble of actually including a whole new color for that. In terms of posability, the arms are only going to give you 90 degrees, which is disappointing on a 2011 high grade. The shoulders don't really roll, the arms have to go straight out if you want to do it that way. But the other thing is just the weapons are dull. Now the spray gun is there to make the Dodge rifle look good. The shield though just does absolutely nothing, it just sort of stands there. Or it just sits there, it's on the back of the arm, you can't really twist it around. I'm glad they give you the extra manipulator. But when you're building newer kits, and especially since Seed, we get used to lots of extra weapons, effect parts, backpacks, and even the spoiler on the Age 1 certainly sets it apart from this one, which only big feature I think is the fact that it's got a clear visor and wide shoulders. The knees, this is something that some people will love and some people will hate. They go both ways. Some things about them are good. And you've got this head that I talked about being the best part, except for the fact that they've got some nice machinery underneath looking parts. But because it's such a dark blue, you're not actually going to see them, and you're not even going to see the green stickers that they bother to give you 2 of them. And my biggest knock, the plate design. I've got to see the Genoace Custom, which is going to be coming out in Wolf's white colors, just to see how that informed the actual plate construction of this. But when you see an A plate with a single 2 pieces that are of a single color, especially one of them being on another plate and one of them being something that you're never going to use, this is something that you've got the ability to put 4 colors on an A plate, and you do. Why not add some more color variations and just have them all over the place? I've never had a kit where the plates were the biggest disappointment, but for the Genoace, that was it for me, and I hope that the custom fixes those problems. Instead of losing to the Gafran, now you have the Genoace doing what it should be doing, backing up the good guy, the hero, and making him look good. So let's run through some of the positives, and there are quite a few. The big thing about this is the posability, and you see it especially there in the aerial poses. It's quite posable with the legs with 135s, the waist is fantastic, you can do all sorts of things with that outside of the shoulders and arm, but you can pop out the poly caps and have the arms come across just a little bit. So in terms of posability, I'm actually pretty pleased with that. Now the colors, they also stand out. This is again subjective, but I think the white and the red and the fact that you've only got that 2 color simplicity, little things like having that white cap on the front, which means that you're going to get 3 pieces of pink looking there. For me, that was a big bonus, and I said Bandai's put some effort into turning something very seemingly simple into something that actually has a little bit of complexity. And the big part for me there is just the colors up on the shoulders. Just the shoulders being so wide, you can see right there on the box art that it's the primary where your eye is going to go. The fact that you've got these gray stickers there on the front and 3 individual gray pieces on each shoulder means that they were trying to take something simple again. Your eyes are going to be drawn to the top because of the head, so why not have the shoulders fill out with a little bit of color? So I think they succeeded there. And that brings me to the face visor, which is clearly the best part of this kit. You've got the white and the pink. If this had a boring, regular gym type head, I think I wouldn't want to buy it at all. But having that shiny blue on there, and the possibility of even seeing things on the inside just add that intrigue and make you want to look a little bit more inside. Now, posability, aerial, the knees, I'm really impressed with them, the way they actually work the more I use them. At first, you've got this big part jutting forward, which I thought just looked ugly. The hips were they were too far forward, and down when you've got the knee, especially in a bent position up here, everything seems to work and it just looks like a little bit of protruding armor, which doesn't detract from the overall looks. In terms of other things, you are going to be getting an extra manipulator, which adds to the poses because unless you're a big fan of that beam stick, or you're going to have a beam spray gun and the beam rifle, you're probably going to have that left hand just using the shield, so you might as well have a cool looking hand in there. And the chest for me, though, is probably the other thing that I really like the best. It's fun. When I was putting it together, I'm like, this is intriguing. Bandai's put some new engineering into this. Whether you're actually going to use the ability for it to bend all the way over and touch the side of its foot, I have no idea, but it was a fun build, and the fact that you've got it certainly makes it different, and it is different enough from this Age 1 normal to make the build worth it. Now, something else you can do with this, you can take that beam spray gun out of its hands, put it in the hands of the Age 1 normal, and recreate that classic, if you want to call it that, scene from episode 1. So there are quite a few advantages to this, it's just a question of how they balance up for you. And that's where my final verdict is going to be, of course, just mine, but maybe you can let me know if you agree with it. At the end of the day, this is a grunt suit, and it's here to make the hero look good, and it did a very good job of that in the first episode, and I think it also does a good job of doing that in terms of the model. This one looks like a lot more fun, but this one, in terms of backup, it is solid and does exactly what it should. So in terms of 1,200 yen, I'm pretty happy with that, but for the same price, you can buy the high-grade Gafran, and the Gafran has transformation, a unique build, horrible ankles, but there's lots of fun things about this. Having the 2 modes, having the interesting weapons, having that much kibble on the back, but the fact that it's sort of useful in both modes, I really prefer, if I was just to buy one, I would choose the Gafran over the Genoace, which is just me, despite the fact that I think this has a lot of knocks against it. But it's still great to have all 3 of them together, so if you're trying to collect them all and just fill up your shelf, I don't know, maybe Advanced Grade is the way to go. If you're a big fan of the story, maybe the White Wolf custom is going to be the way to go. Not unhappy to have it, but it's not something that I necessarily need to go back in time and buy again. In terms of a little bit of overall reflection, it's always fun to build a new line just to see what new techniques Bandai is going to include when they make the models. The Age 1 had a lot of new ones. The Gafran was interesting. The Genoace, interesting, although a little bit less so. It's going to be neat to see how this high-grade line keeps on going, and I'd like to compare it to the AGs and at least see how they stack up compared to one another. Next up, we're going to be having the Titus, which is a lot of fun. I'll be sure to be getting that one. But what do you think so far about the line and the Genoace? Always love to hear from you with a comment down below. What do you think of it in the anime? I thought it was horrible the way it just got sent to school. It did nothing other than just set up Flit to be the hero that he's obviously going to be. But what about the model? Is it worth 1,200 yen? That's something, of course, you'll have to decide, and I'd love to hear whether that's a yay or a nay. Anyway, everybody, Robert184, Gundam.tk, thanks for watching. As always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that. Always great to hear from you. See you next time. Lots more high-grade Age coming up, along with anime reviews. See ya. You can insert your does nothing joke right here. Nice moves there, vampire. Can I interest you in a game of chance? Nope, that's it. That's the joke.